Once you have installed Anaconda on your machine, next we will see how to launch Jupyter Notebook. The Jupyter Notebook is an open source web application that not only allows you to create Python code, but also allows you to share it seamlessly with included comments and outputs. On a broader level, there are two ways to launch Jupyter Notebook. First, by using Anaconda Navigator GUI. For this, you have to just go to your Start menu, type Anaconda, and then just click on the Anaconda Navigator option. It might take a couple of seconds to fire up based on available RAM. Please note that at the beginning, it would also prompt to choose your preferred browser. I did select Google Chrome on my machine, but you can select whichever browser you want. Let's give it a couple of seconds. On the home screen, you will find a wide range of applications offered by Anaconda. For now, let's go ahead and launch Jupyter Notebook. It will open up a kernel session on your browser. Please note that you can start notebooks with different kernels, for example, R, Julia, and not just Python. As you can see, it will give all the folder options which are there in the root node. Now, if you want to have a particular folder as your root node, then you can use Anaconda command prompt. So for example, I want to use Python folder on my machine. So I want to use Python as my root node and then start my Jupyter Notebook from here. For this, I will use Anaconda command prompt. Just click Anaconda, just type Anaconda, and then you can see there is an option Anaconda prompt. Click on this and just change your directory to whichever location you want to start with. So in our case, we'll start with ePython. Now, once you have reached your location, just type Jupyter Notebook. Please note that in Jupyter there is no I, it's a Y, Jupy, then space, and then Notebook, and click Enter. Now, this will again start your kernel, but in this case, you can see the root node is the folder that you selected.
So as we now know both the options to fire Jupyter Notebook on our machine, let's take a closer look at basic features of this interface. So let's switch to Python Notebook. Here, as you can see, there's a button New. If you click here, the drop-down will give multiple options. The first one is Python 3. If you want to create any other file, they can use other options like text file, folder, or terminal. For now, I'll click Python 3. And it has given me a new notebook. The name is Untitled, so let's click here and give it a new name. Say my first Python notebook and click on rename. The next there is a help section. So if you want, you can go through an interface tour. So if you click here, then it will start giving a virtual tour of all the sections. Then you have keyboard shortcuts. If you want, you can also change the keyboard shortcut as per your preferences by using edit keyboard shortcuts. Next, you have got references to very popular packages in Python like IPython, NumPy, SciPy. So all in all, this help section is something you would like to go through once you start with your Python journey and start with Jupyter Notebook. Then you can see below File menu there are some icons there which are very useful and handy to use commands, starting with save option, then creating a new cell, cut, copy, paste, and then if you have multiple cells, then you can use up and down navigation as you can see here, right, to move between the cells. Then there is a run to run your code. Then we have option to interrupt the kernel, restart the kernel, and then restart the kernel and then rerun the whole notebook. Next, you will see there is a section which says code, markdown, raw and b convert, heading. These are different cell types which are allowed in Python. The code is the default cell type. So if you write say 2 plus 2 and then shift enter, then the output is 4. So the Default cell type code is what is interpreted by kernel. So whatever you write here would be interpreted by Python engine and then the output will be displayed. This is the default one and we will be using it most of the time. The next cell type is Markdown. Now Markdown cell type is to write a markup code, something similar to HTML. It is not interpreted by Python engine and it is used for headings and comments. So if you write one hash, then becomes first level heading. So say heading 1 and then you can click shift enter. So as you can see, now this is not a code but this is a heading. If you want to have levels of your heading, so then you can just add those many number of hashes. For example, if you convert it to a markdown cell and then you add 1 2 3, then it becomes level 3 heading, level 3, and I'll close it with 3 hashes. Likewise, there could be 6 levels which are supported. If you go anyway beyond it, then it will be treated as a normal comment. So let me explain what I'm saying. So if you create it a markdown and say you put 1 2 3 4 5 6 7, then you can see now it's no longer heading, it's a normal comment. Till level 6 it will be treated as a heading. So you can give 6 levels of headings. Next, you can also give it fonts, like you can make it a bold or italic. For that you can use underscore. So for example, if you want to make it a italic, then you simply say whatever is in underscore would be treated as italic. Rather than underscore, you can also use asterisk sign. That will also do the same, right? So whatever you write between this would be shown as italic. If you want to make it bold, then rather than one, use two underscore, and you can see it will put it as bold. But first you have to make it, of course, markdown, right? So now this is bold, and if I put shift enter, this will be appearing in bold. And as I said, rather than using underscore, you can also use asterisk, right? So markdown, asterisk, and bold, it will also do the same. So with that, now you know how you can play with these fonts, and also you can use markup to provide different level of headings. Next type is raw NB convert. Now raw NB convert is useful if you want to render your code into some other format. For example, if you want to render it into latex or if you want to render it into HTML, then you will need raw NB convert. But for now, we might not be using it for basic Python programming, so we will skip it for now. Next option type is heading. As you can see, it gives a prompt that Jupyter no longer uses special heading cells. Instead, your headings in Markdown cells using hash character. So what it basically means is the heading cell type has been deprecated in latest versions of Python. It was used to provide headings, but as we have already seen, we can use Markdown and use hash to provide headings there. Therefore, we don't need heading anymore, right? So as you have seen, we have multiple options we can switch between and use whichever cell type we want. Apart from that, Jupyter Notebook also allows user to use different languages in the same notebook. Isn't it great? This is done using magics. To write a magics command, start with percentage sign. If you want to see all the magics options which are available, then simply write percentage ls magic and then hit shift enter. So as you can see, it will give list of all the magics options which are available. The actual list of magics might be dependent on the kernel that you are running on your machine, but more or less you should see the same list. Now, for example, you want to run, say, Python installer package, which is pip. So for that, you have to simply start as is mentioned here, percentage pip. So that means now what we are writing is a pip command, right? So I'll say pip and then install numpy and hit shift enter. So as you can see, now it's showing this asterisk mode. That means it is busy executing this instruction. And now because I already have it on my machine, it says requirement already satisfied. But you got the idea, right? How to use any of these available magics, and you can use different languages, for example, Ruby or JavaScript, HTML. So it makes it very easy and very it makes Jupyter Notebook very powerful if you are working with it. Also, so that you know, please note Jupyter Notebook is just not an editor and interface for Python. You can also use different kernels apart from Python. For example, you can use R and you can use Julia. So friends, with that we have covered the basics of Jupyter Notebook interface. In our next session, we will see how to assign variables in Python.